Alright guys, in this video we're going to be covering how to set up your 2-minute chart, your 8-minute chart, your 32-minute chart, your 1 to 8-minute chart, and 5 1-2-minute charts from the multiple cycle setup. Let's go. Okay, so one of the first things I recommend you do is get up something you can make notes on. So it's either a book next to you or, for instance, just press Command Spacebar, type in stickies if you're on Mac, and I'm sure you've got some form of notes that you can add it on if you're on Windows. Okay, so let's get into this. First and foremost, what we're going to do here is get up a entirely new chart. And I'm going to go with setting it up on Binance USDT. Okay, so on the 32-minute chart here, I'm going to look at the start and the finish of last week's cycle, and then use those metrics to build down to the 2-minute chart and to build up to the 5-1-2. So let's have a look over here as to when the week starts and finishes. Okay, so if I have to click over here, I'm going to see on the 14th of June, will be the start of our current cycle, or the 7th of June to be the start of the previous cycle. As I've just mentioned, we're going to be working on the previous cycle, so they've got a full length to build up and to build down. Okay, so I want to start over here on the 7th of June at 0020. So just if you follow my mouse down to the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there, 7th of June at 20 minutes past 12. Okay, so I've just pressed Option V, or if you're on Windows, you'll select Alt V, and I've dropped down my vertical line over there to mark the start of this cycle. And then I'm going to go a week from the 7th, so 7 plus 7 equals 14. And then at the same time, drop my next vertical line to close off that cycle. Okay, so we've got our full cycle here, which you've done 100 times before, I'm sure. We're going to use our powerful cycle lines to divide this up to now calculate what the cycle length will be on the time frame below, which of course will be the 8 minutes. So you've done this 100 times before, very simple stuff. You know what to do with that. Okay, so cycle lines are down. Just to kind of show you how long a quadrant is for our 32 minutes, if we click and drag using our data tool, you'll see here that it's 79 bars, 1 day, 18 hours, and 8 minutes. So 1 day, 18 hours, and 8 minutes will be the length of a full cycle on the 8-minute cycle below. Okay, and of course, start to finish on the 32 minutes, as you can guess, it's a straight up 7 days. So just like this is a 7-day cycle, the cycle below will be this time frame. And you start putting in the information. So you're going to say your week cycle over here for this particular cycle will start at the 7th of June, 20 minutes past midnight, and then end at the 14th of June for this particular cycle. Obviously, whenever you're watching this video, it'll be relevant to the time that you have over there at 00. Alrighty. Okay, so what we want to do next is get the length of the cycle below for the 8-minute chart, and we do so by just putting down our information at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so where I'm looking over here is at our time panel, and it'll give us the information required. So the start of the 8 minutes will be at the 7th of June at that time, and then the end of that cycle will be the 8th of June at 16 hours and 28 minutes. Okay, just to remind you, I'm looking at our time panel down here to get the full cycle of the 8 minutes. So the week cycle, of course, we use to swing trade, and then on the 8-minute, we use to day trade. Let's go set that up. Okay, so I'm going to save this over here. And also very important, especially the guys who've got the paid version of TradingView, And as I say that, I'm realizing that you have to have the paid version of TradingView to make this work. So if you haven't done that yet, I recommend going up to the Pro Plus plan, because you get to have multiple devices as well as no advertising, and you can have, I think, up to 10 charts. So that's more than you need at this stage. I'm up on premium. I've got all the bells and whistles. It's a bit overkill. I don't need all of that, but Pro Plus, in terms of responsible spending, it's probably the best option to go for where you are right now at your stage of trading. So back to setting up the multiple time frames. Let's get the next one laid down. So this is a 32-minute Bitcoin Binance chart. Okay, I'm going to save that over there. So obviously name and save your chart. I'm going to create a new chart. How should I do so? I think because what I've done here is I've really tidied it up by taking away the grids and the volume and that kind of thing. I'm going to go, instead of creating a new chart, so I have to do that again, I'm going to go and click duplicate if they have that option. So sharing off, rename, make a copy. So I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to call this now the 8-minute BTC Binance chart. All right. And click save. Now what you'll see is the same working that we've had from the 32-minute chart, but we don't want that. We want to have it on the 8 minutes. So just by clicking 8 on the chart and off of your keyboard, you should have this pop up. If that doesn't work for you, go through to here and click 8 minutes and enter. There it is over there. You can even make it a favorite if you would like to. Okay, so here's our 8 minutes. You'll see that by having the cycle line drawn up on the 32, it's already given us the spacing for this cycle, okay? But I don't necessarily want you to do that, because as you move up to different cycles, I don't want you to rely on the information from the 32-minute, especially if you're going down to the 2 minutes or if you're going up to the 512. So we're going to right click and remove all drawings, okay? Going back to our notes here on the 8-minute, the day trade, we're going to look for the timestamp at 20 minutes past midnight on the 7th of June. And then we're going to close it off on at 1800 hours, 28 minutes on the 8th of June. So let's go down to the bottom, move our mouse around, give that a little bit of an A-OK from our side, go to option V if you're on Mac, and then go down the bottom once more to look for 18 hours. Have I gone past it? I believe I may have the 8th of June. Well, it's way past it. I started my cycle off wrong. Okay, so let's go back to the 7th of June. A little tip if you want to go to a particular date. I'm just trying to think what it may be. As if you press Option and G, you can go to a date and time. So over here, if you want to move to the 7th of June, I'll just type in the 7th over there from a date perspective, and we can go to 20 minutes, more or less. And it'll take you there. Okay, so here we are, 7th of June. And let's drop our first option at 20 minutes past 12 on this date. So Control V. As we go across, I would like to have a look at the end of the cycle, and that'll be the 8th of June at 1828. So 1828 is now where my cursor is on the bottom right hand side of the screen. So Option and V. So this now closes off our cycle on the lower environment. Okay, these are the further cycles to come as we get to our current date. Okay, so going back to this cycle, we treat it as if it's any other regular MTOPS setup. Now that you've got the dates, we set it up with the cycle lines, and we fulfill the rest of the MTOPS influence tools and build up a story. Okay, so this now becomes I recommend you locking in your cycle lines, because that way if you click on them by accident, they don't move anywhere. So now we've got a cycle, an MTOPS cycle of 10. And this is where you're going to obviously lay your turning points down and use this information to calculate the next turning points on the relevant cycle. So that will be turning point 1, turning point 2 perhaps, and so on. that's how you set up your 8-minute chart. Now, very similar to this, what we're going to do is create a 2-minute chart from the length of this quadrant. So instead of going to there, I'm going to go to the most recent environment because I like to have recent data, and we can see some live price action within that cycle. So over here, I'm going to go to my stickies once again, or my notes, have that either on next to your desk or in your laptop screen the way I've got it. And the 2-minute chart, as you already know, is for high frequency trading or very high paced scalping. Okay, so this is not for everyone, but we do have some community members who like to scalp, and if they like to do so in a 20x leverage with their $500, then this should be what can help them make sure that they optimize their scalping techniques. Okay, so once again, the same strategy applies. We go down to the bottom of our time pane and look to see what the length of our environment is. Just something to notice, like a side point, 79 bars seems to be the average length of a quadrant in a cycle. Like, that is mathematical beauty to me, and it's been this way all the way through. So just quite a cool thing from my aspect of loving what we've got here, and maybe it appeals to you too. Okay, so let's get to our start over here. So the start will be at the 14th of June, 21:56, and then the end will be on the 15th of June at 08:28. Okay, so it's a 10-hour 32-minute cycle for the 2 minutes, right? So now that we have our 8 minutes locked in, what I'm going to do is I want to move over, I want to make a copy, and I want to call this, as you can guess it, the 2-minute chart. Just think about it now, if you want to change it around, you can also have 2-minute high frequency or scalp charts, and just save it for under what purpose it's there to be. Okay, so once again, I'm going to right click, remove all drawings, and then lay down the cycle. So we're going to go to the time at the bottom of the screen, so 14th of June and 21:56. So option V, and end that cycle off the 15th of June, 8:28. Okay, so again, just like every other MTOPS setup, you're going to treat this exactly the same. So after your cycle is set, you go and drop down the quadrants, and now you're going to get spacing. This is a lot more sensitive, and if you have the time of day to scalp, then this is for you, but just realize it is quite tricky. You're going to have to use all of the time frames together to make best sense of this scalping environment. So scalp under responsible conditions. Obviously, make sure your risk management is correctly set, and definitely have an espresso machine right next to your trade desk, because you're going to want to be alert when scalping these high frequency trades. Okay, so once again, you look for your turning points and you can measure them just as you have in every other cycle. So over here, for example, that'll be a low, that'll be a high, and then this will come down to this low over here, and then you're going to measure that to the next high, and that's going to measure the next low, and to the next high, to the next low. You want to be more forgiving on this time frame, because the orders are obviously a bit wilder as you're dealing with actual orders. It's not necessarily swings. This is scalping. Okay, so a market order can buy its way up the order book, and also a quick sell can also dump the order book quite quickly. So just given the information from the MTOPS, you already know that the midweek cycle is going to be a 5, or the mid cycle is going to be a 5. So there'll be a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then from 9, a 10 is being formed. And from a 10, a 1 will be formed, and so on. And as you've seen it been done a number of times before, just use your Gantt square, price and time, and you can calculate when to sell on your scalps. So you can see that it worked quite nicely up to here. It went up this 1/4 line, kind of turned around at arc 4. Now it's on its way down. A quick fire way to measure your point instead of dropping down all of the tools. So instead of going and measuring the length of the previous swing and then dragging it across and then putting your time down, dragging that across, which you'll grow tired of very quickly, I'll show you a quick way to get through that. So instead of doing it and wasting valuable time the way I've done it now, the best way for you to measure up on the 2 minutes is just go to the length of the previous swing and then line it up where the fourth level on your Gantt square is the full length of the previous swing. Now you'll have to get practice with this because sometimes it'll be the second level or the fourth level depending on the market energy, but with a bit of practice I'm sure you'll get it right. So instead of doing it the long way, see how it all lines up, the 0.5 lines up, the 1 lines up, and you can use your quadrant spacing instead of your time to see where it's going to turn next. So you can see right now that's going down the 1/2, and it'll probably come through to arc 4 unless it's already turned, and then we're on to the up. Okay, so again, this is it's quite frequent, which means that you want to save your energy. So instead of dropping down the time and the price, from a Gantt square perspective, I can see price coming down. We'll see whether or not it breaks this wick. What I'll do over here is I'll just drop it at the bottom, line it up to the top there. Okay, cool. So that doesn't really make sense because the price is about to break that. But just for example purposes, I would then bring it across and just measure it from wherever it decides to stop. Okay, so that's going to go down. I wonder if 10's even formed. So whilst we're here, let's have a quick look the real world circumstances as to how this operates. So we're going to drag that over. Let's just see which arc is trying to turn that to. Cool, it's probably get down to arc 4. Once it gets there, you gotta wait for it to build a candle next to it. See who has a slightly higher low, and then boom. Okay, so again, this is it's pretty intense stuff, but if you're an action taker and you want to just live and eat and sleep the markets all day, then by all means go ahead and do this. It's high intention, it's high adrenal, and it's a lot of fun, I suppose, if you get it right. Just make sure that you don't get tired behind the screen, and you don't get overconfident, or you don't get bored, or you don't push your own will onto the market. Like, just be respectful of what's happening. Always check on your higher frames. Like, I would pretty much have a look over here on the 8 minute to see where it wants to drop down to, and then use that information to go down to the 2 minute and just make the best sense of that. So real quick, instead of doing the full setup, and again, I only recommend this for the high frequency environments. Like, if you're using this to swing trade, please put down your price tool, please put down your time tool, and continue to do so with a professional manner. But for the quick frequency trades, you can see I just measured up that high over there to that over there with the 0 to 4 levels on the Gantt square. And as you can tell, it's now moving along this little pizza slice before it gets to its next turning point. Again, guys, if you aren't blown away at how MTOPS works on every single cycle, please take a moment and phone your doctor and say, hey man, I've got some confessions to make. I'm not okay. Because this is mind-blowing stuff. Like, honestly, can you wrap your head around this, guys? It is mind-blowing how it works on every time cycle. The same. 10 turning points, 10 turning points, 4 quadrants, and the cycles plug into the quadrants on the above cycle, and the same rule set applies. And if you apply your tools here on the 1 to 8, let's do it real quick from a time perspective, you're going to start seeing that it all measures up as it does on every other cycle. Okay, so clone that, put that side to side, boom, there it is, within this pizza range. Okay, I don't need to continue. Again, please see a doctor if this doesn't amaze you, because it should blow your socks off. All right, guys, so that is all the way down to the 1 to 8. Now let's go to the other end of the cycle building. I'm going to build up to the 1 to 8, right? Yeah, so the 2 minutes done, 1 to 8's next. Okay, so again, the length of a cycle is 4 quadrants. Yes, you know that. So let's go 1 quadrant, 2 quadrant, 3 quadrant, third, 4 quadrants, 5 quadrants. Drop that in there. Option V for Mac, Alt V for Windows. Okay, so that's the length of our full cycle. Once again, we know it's 7 days, and then we're going to use that to plot it onto the 1 to 8 on the higher cycle. So we go to start to finish, make sure we got it all nice and tidy. So I've got here 7 days, 315 bars. Look at the bottom over here, it's highlighted in blue for you. 14th, okay, so let's move that across. It should be at 0, 0, 20, so 0, 0, 20, 0, 0, 20, the 14th to the 21st. So now we're going to go build upwards. So I'm going to go to this end, make a copy, I'm going to call that 1 to 8, and we can call it trade decision chart. Because once again, you make your decisions off the 1 to 8, and you put your finesse entries, buy, sell, stop loss on the 32 minutes. Okay, so here we go, right click, remove drawings because we made a clone. If you drop down here if you like, add the 1 to 8 to your favorites, go to click add, it should see a pop up, hit a little favorite over there, and then you can start building it up. So the week cycle I need to go back to because we have to measure the start and the finish of the quadrants. I can do so from memory over here, and I'm sure you can as well. So let's rather do that instead. So here we are on the 1 to 8 cycle. This is for your trade decisions, not order decisions. This is like the price, shape, and that kind of decision. And this is going to be starting, as you can tell over here, the 14th of June at 0020, and it will end, we don't know yet, okay? But we will start it at the 14th of June, and we'll make a full quadrant that length over there. So let's go to the 14th of June at the bottom here. Very difficult to get 020 as you can see over there. So I'm going to just drop it here on the 13th of June as close to midnight as possible. That seems to be 16th. Let me just see if I go forward one. That's too deep into the next. So I'm going to actually just keep it here. 13th of June, 21st. Sorry, 21 hours rather. 23 hours. Cool. And then we're going to drop down a quadrant to the length of 1 week. So let's go to our date tool, click and drop, and I'm just watching the price build in the information, and then that's going to give me 7 days. So there we go, just follow where my mouse is. There's 7 days, and you can confirm over here that 13 plus 7 is 20, so the 20th of June at 2316, 2316 will now be the length of the quadrant on the 1 to 8. So we're going to bring our cycle lines, and we're going to match it up to that time, and then give that an anchor, and there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants, locking in at the end of this with an option V to close our cycle, and that's how you set your cycle on the 1 to 8. And once again, you're going to add your MTOPS. So this will move down from a 9 to 10, 10 to 1, 1 to 2, and so on and so on. Cool, so let's put that down there as the cycle ending at the 11th of June, 2316 being the time it ends at. I'm moving up to the 512. We're going to measure out the trend direction, which also includes the medium to longer term trades in case you don't want to swing trade. Okay, so once again, guys, you know what's about to happen. It should become a bit boring to you by now. You should be anticipating the next move because it's exactly the same process, okay? So we're going to have a look over here. It's the 28 days, starting off from the 13th of June. So let's try and start it off here. It's 2316. Whilst I do this, I'm just trying to think if we're going to end. Nope, this is fine. Okay, 2316, and then we're going to say end at. So let's take that information and go one cycle up. So this will be now the cycle, the length of the quadrant for the higher cycle, okay? So we're going to go make a copy, go to the 512, name that in dominant trend direction chart. Okay, save it up, click over here, add 512 to your favorites, go to 512, and let's continue to do as we need to. Now, as you can tell, that's already laid out for you, but I prefer to go from scratch personally. If you want to make these adjustments, then go ahead. I'm going to right click, I'm going to remove, I'm going to go to that date, the 13th of June. As close as we can get to the 13th of June at that time, it'll be 7 o'clock instead of 23. So I'm going to go and press option V, make my adjustment over here. That'll be 1900 hours instead of our recommended 20 or 60 minutes past 23. So the reason that is because we're working with bigger candles. So the 512 means that each candle has 512 minutes in it, which means we won't be able to get to that exact date, just like we couldn't do so when we were working with the 128 and the 8-minute channel, with the 32, because of the width and time of the candles or bars that we're working with over there. So what we want to do then is take our cycle line and then just build it out for a 28-day length. Okay, so I want to go to the start of this cycle to measure out our quadrant length for the 512, and I'm just looking over here, 28 days it is. Going to drop those cycle lines, measure that out, and then boom, there you are, all set for the 512. 1 quadrant, 2 quadrant, 3 quadrant, 4 quadrant, end of the 4th quadrant, option V, and we've got that set up. Alright guys, I can hear the gardener is here and he's got his power tools out. So I'm going to jump off now and then go continue with what I need to. I think you've basically got everything you need, okay? That's how you set up the 512, the 128, the 32, the 8 minutes, and the 2. If you have any issues or there's anything that's unclear, please reach out to me and I'm happy to answer that. If not, enjoy your charting and I hope you enjoy what you've learned today. Ciao for now.